it's wonderful to come together as a community and a collective and celebrate this achievement together. And as we know, this work wouldn't be possible without the collective and the willingness of the community to share their knowledge and expertise with others. And so we invite you to share where you're joining from in the chat, as Tracy did. It's nice to know on whose lands people are working on and living on. And then I'm going to hand over to Janet, our program manager, who is going to share some insights into our journey. I just want to mihi and acknowledge Jenny, who's here with us in the room, Jenny Barber, our past director of Open Access Australasia. I also want to acknowledge Martin Bushett. UNSW has been a excellent friend and partner in the Open Access Australasia journey, and we found out that we're going to continue that journey together for the next few years, which is always really wonderful. And then also to acknowledge Dimity, the co-chair of the Open Access Australasia Executive, Anne, Lennox from RMIT, another executive member, and Jessica Howie from Waikato, who is also here with us today. So, and before I hand over the microphone, the metaphorical microphone to Janet, I just want to acknowledge all the work that she's done on this project. She has brought together an incredible group of experts with lived experience and knowledge in open access. And we're looking forward to hearing from some of those people today. It's no mean feat providing all the support and leadership that Janet does for Open Access Australasia in a very small one-person office. And we're so grateful to you, the community and the executive, for helping us keep the wheels on this amazing organisation and the great work that's being done in the region. So without further ado, I'd just like you to show your appreciation for Janet, and you can use the gestures or sign language, or yeah, just let her know how appreciated she is, and it's all yours, Janet.
Goodness me, what a welcome. Thank you. Ngā mihi, Kim. That was beautiful. One of the things I'm going to talk about is how many people have helped me with this course. So definitely was not a solo effort. I apologize to those who have seen some of these slides before, because I did use some of them at Research Support Community Day. Hopefully you're seeing them all okay. Yell out if you're not. I just wanted to start off with a bit of an overview of OA101. So that course has been running since 2022 and was written before my time at OAA. It was written by Ginny, who's with us today, and a lady called Sally Murray Walsh, who was contracted specifically to design the course. And back then, in 2022, the priorities and the focus around open access was very different than it is today. Today, it's pretty much a household word, isn't it? But in 2022, there was it was not widely known as it is now what it was about. So the first course was an intro basics course to raise awareness and talked about things like what's the terminology all about and what was the history, where did it come from, how do repositories fit into it, what are article versions, what does Creative Commons have to do with it, how do you advocate for open access at your institution, because it was still not the commonplace thing that it is today. What other groups can you get involved with to keep your open access journey going? So these were the kind of things that were focused on in 2022. and very important they were back then as well. So I've done a bit of an aggregate of the course over the last 3 years. And it's very gratifying to know that we've had a massive uptake by our member institutions. So this is a member-only value, and as is the new course. So it's really good to know that our participants, that so many participants have been through from member institutions and they've found it useful. So the prize goes to AUT for having over 50 staff go through 101 in the last 3 years. But you can see on this graph that lots of people from different institutions went through. So most institutions had multiple staff go through over the years, and also our non-university affiliate members also have been through the course as well. It's all really gratifying because that's why we wrote it, right? And why we expected a lot of librarians to go through, and that is true, especially at the beginning. You can see, look at all these different titles of librarians. So from very wide and varied areas in the library. But we also had a whole spectrum of other staff, either in the library or adjacent to the library, all the way from people on placement and interns up to senior management. So a very wide spectrum, everyone in between those two as well, and a variety of unexpected roles. This table down in the corner here, we can see some people I would not have expected to see in the course, pictorial collections registrar and funding officers, copyright officers, solution architects. I'm not sure what that is, but that sounds really cool. So these unexpected roles came through the course as well, people that you wouldn't necessarily think would have open access on their radar. So this is all really good news. And what this is, when people went into the course each time, we asked them what their confidence level was on a scale of 1 to 5 with all these different elements, and what they entered at the beginning. We were very much hoping when they saw the same questions at the end, their confidence level would have increased, because that's what we were hoping would happen, right? People would learn something by doing the course. And so what we found is that these are averages, right, of everyone who completed the survey. So we can see the percentage increase from when they go in to when they go out. Not only has it increased, but it's also increased over the iterations of the course, which is really interesting. So people seem to be learning more from it in later years than in previous years. I think that probably reflects the fact that in the beginning, a lot of people who were very passionate about open access and already had a good knowledge level jumped in to do the course. So their increment of what they learned was less because they already knew a lot when they came in. And the good thing is that people who were not as upskilled in OA were taking the course, and so they were learning a lot as they came through. So that's all really excellent. So we also asked for feedback after each iteration of 101, and we did hear pretty much every time that the platform we were using was a bit clunky and unintuitive. And so what we've done with the new course is we've moved it onto Canvas, which a lot of you are probably familiar with. It's a learning management system. It is a little bit vanilla, but it's very easy to navigate, and hopefully it'll lead to a more streamlined, a smoother experience going through the content. And then 3 things that people requested every time was, can we please hear more about the Indigenous perspective? Could you please next time talk about rights retention, because we did not cover that in the basic course. And could you, in the last 18 months, 2 years, could you say something about how AI is impacting open scholarship? So we've taken those 3 themes. We've also added bibliodiversity, because that's a core commitment of ours, is to bibliodiversity. And it also allows us to investigate all these new models for open that have come up in the last couple of years. So these 4 themes we're going to trace in increasing depth across 4 modules. So the one that opens on Monday is the first module. So that will be a lot of the background of these themes, and then we'll explore them more as we go along. So if you have not enrolled in this course yet and you would like to, enrollment's been open all week, so we already have quite a few people, but basically, if you go to our homepage, there's a link to the registration in the carousel that cycles through on the homepage, but it's also under our events, under the online courses. And it's just the normal sort of Google registration form, but that gives us your email. So what will happen on Monday is you will get, when the course opens, you'll get an official welcome email, and that will have the Canvas URL, and it will take you to Canvas where you just put in the code for the course. It's no more complicated than that. It's just your email, your name, you're not a robot, and you're in, and that's it. So I'm just going to switch now to quickly take you to the course. When you first go in, this is what you'll see. It's like the contents page in Canvas. So there's a bit of an introduction. There's each of the 4 sections, the themes that we're going to cover, and a little bit of a conclusion. And so basically you just start, as we always do, right, with a respectful acknowledgement of country, and then work our way through the content. And it's just navigates at the bottom with next and previous. And so there's a little bit of an explanation of what the course will cover, and then it goes into how the module works. This is mainly to introduce these eye-catching purple boxes, which were designed to jump out at you. What the content of the course has got these boxes throughout. There's 12 of them in total, and they connect directly to a discussion forum in Canvas, which we will ask you questions, and you can do some self-reflection, think about your own practice or your institution's practice, and share your ideas and your thoughts in the discussion forum. And at the moment, it's set so that you can choose either to reply as yourself, or you can choose to reply anonymously, just in case for some people who don't feel as comfortable maybe with their knowledge level or whatever, then yeah, you're very welcome to respond in either way. And what we're hoping is that that will generate some discussion, but it will also allow some conversation between the cohort, because you can also ask your own questions. You can upload interesting article that you might have seen, or start even your own discussion groups if you wanted to. So there's a lot of capacity to do that kind of thing. And so then you just work through the content. So the content is a mixture of text, embedded videos. I don't think any of them are longer than 8 or 9 minutes. Most of them are a lot shorter than that. Graphics. We have the transcripts for everything visual, which was one of the things that we did to make the course more accessible, but it's in an accordion format, so you can, it'll be closed. You can open it if you want to, or if you don't want to access the transcript, then you just ignore it, and it's just a little gray line there. And then you just go through page by page, and the purple boxes will jump out, and you can share your thoughts in response to the questions, or any other thoughts that you might have, in fact. So I just want to go back to the slides for a second. So there's 4 themes. We're going to open the course for 8 weeks. So it will open on Monday, and it will be open for 8 weeks. And we're assuming that if you want to go through kind of at the same time as the cohort, we'll spend about 2 weeks on the first section, 2 weeks on the second section, etc. And we will have a little weekly catch up on a Wednesday at 12 p.m. That's Australian Eastern, so 2 p.m. for Aotearoa. That is completely optional. You could just work through it at your own pace and do your own thing. But in the hope that we could have kind of a group discussion and a group experience, we are going to try to keep to time and do it like a section every 2 weeks. And that's what will be reflected in the side meetings. And then this is the most important slide of all of them, because all these generous experts have been fundamental to the creation of this course. It's been a long time in the making, and I do thank you all for your patience. We've had a working group, we've had Indigenous content advisors, we've had the speakers representing both of those groups. I have not been able to get them into the meeting so far, so we were going to hear from all these, some of these people at any rate. in the rest of this course, but I'm not sure what's going to happen there now. I'll have to look and see if they got in.
I think they've made it in for the most part.
Oh, yes. Awesome. But yeah, without the people who contributed here in these different ways, this course wouldn't be possible. So it's very moving to me that people give of their time and their expertise for free to help us build this resource, which hopefully will be really helpful for all our members. So I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Janet. And now we have the opportunity to hear from some of the people involved in developing the project. We're just going to give you a little bit of time to introduce yourself. We might start with you, Dimity, and then we'll move through and see who else is here.
Thanks, Kim. So as Kim mentioned, I'm currently the Deputy Chair for Open Access Australasia. This will be the final year on the Exec Committee, and it has been one of the most wonderful and rewarding experiences in my career. So I'm very grateful for that. I am also the Manager of Scholarly Communications at the University of Melbourne. And over the time that I've been at the university, my own team has grown quite a bit, which has really made this course extremely handy for me to get people up to speed. But yes, I'm keen to talk about all the ways that this offering through Open Access Australasia has contributed to professional development at Melbourne.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Dimity. Kristie, are you there? No. Matthew, I think I saw your name in the list. There you go. I can see you right there.
Hi there, how are you?
Kia ora.
So I'm Matthew Millis. I'm from RMIT University Library, where I work as a learning designer. I work in the digital learning team, so we basically are a small team that has people that specialize in learning design and designing digital assets. And we were asked to consult on some of the accessibility features of the unit.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Unfortunately, Lesley and Chris can't be here today. And I thought I saw Kristie's name in the list. But so what I might do is just, we'll start off with, I've got a few questions for Dimity, and then we'll move to Matthew, and then we'll see what happens. So Dimity, nearly 30 people from University of Melbourne took part in the course for OA 101 and over the last 3 years. And you mentioned in your introduction that your team have benefited from the professional development. Can you expand on that a bit more and talk a bit about the impact?
Yeah, sure. So my own team is made up of scholarly comms and research outputs and copyright. So for scholarly comms, obviously they were one of the people who took on the course at an earlier stage, already had quite high confidence levels, but they were also able to get a professional development opportunity out of it by being a tutor on the course. And I know they really enjoyed that experience. For research outputs, that was a team that came across to my area from faculty research officers predominantly. And so they were coming with generally just a low baseline knowledge of open access, very much in this sort of context of depositing to the repository. And so it was really helpful for them to get an understanding of what the sort of the primary work we were doing was about. And so it really helped as well with the research outputs team getting to know the scholarly comms team better as well. So just that shared language was really helpful. Another thing that we've developed within research services at the University of Melbourne was a staff knowledge framework. So where we have sort of expertise in the research support area, we have mapped out sort of what the tiered expectations are for various service levels, such as our liaison librarians or our client services team on the front desk, and what they need to know and how they escalate things. And obviously, we can have training occasionally, but it really takes the pressure off our very small team to know that there is training we can offer, especially when there is a bit of staff turnover, a lot of new staff throughout the year. They can just jump into that on one of the sort of, I think it's run generally on 3 times. They can just jump in when that's available and get up to speed, and then reach out to us for questions that are very specific to the University of Melbourne offering. So it's been absolutely wonderful.
Do you think there'll be, this is a loaded question, there'll be interest in OA201, the kind of the next level of the course?
So I've already posted it on the library teams chat, and people have already told me that they've signed up. They're really interested. I think the topics that are being covered are just very much the topics that everyone is very interested in at the moment. There's a lot of discussion at the university generally around Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous focused research. And so understanding how that aligns with the open access message of the university is really interesting for people. And also anything to do with Gen AI, people want to know more about.
Fantastic. Well, it's we're looking forward to your teams and the broader library and indeed university coming on board for the course. So thank you very much for that, Dimity. Matthew.
Yes.
So a big thank you to RMIT and the team for providing a kind of accessibility lens. We talk about using universal design principles and these sort of things, but to actually apply that expertise across the course has been really a really valuable thing for us. So can you share with us, Matthew, why digital accessibility is a key priority when designing courses like this?
Yeah, well, I guess, well, first of all, thank you very much for having us on board. I think that digital accessibility and open access are 2 things that go together very well, because it's all about making information as accessible and open to people as possible. When I think about digital accessibility, my first window into this world was when I was working as an English as a foreign language teacher, and I had a student in a class who had vision impairment, and so I was able to live the frustrations with her in the classroom and with the digital content that she was trying to access, because number one, at that particular school I was working at, no one had told me that there was going to be a student who had different accommodations that needed to be made. And so that was my window into this world. And ever since then, I've tried to educate myself as much as possible on this. It's just as simple as this, that everyone should have access to information. There shouldn't be a barrier. And we can try to assume what difficulties and needs and barriers that people are running up into, but we need to go out there and try things and then test them, and also understand that this is going to be a lifelong journey, trying to find out what is the accessibility standards and how are they going to evolve and change with different technologies over time. The other thing is that we need to be listening to the voices of the people who are actually needing these adjustments to be made, because a lot of the time we can read on the internet or somewhere about what the so-called best practices are, but until we go out and do some testing and find out what the realities are, and also understand that just because 2 people may have vision impairment doesn't mean that they're going to have the same preferences for how they access information as well. So I think that it's a really complex world, and it's a very complex thing to implement, but trying to get as many adjustments into the content as possible is essential. And by just doing a few simple things, you can really make a big difference to a lot of people.
Thanks very much, Matthew. I had an experience today, and it was my first class where I was speaking to somebody who was deaf, and there were 2 interpreters in the group. And I move around when I'm lecturing, and I kept going past the line that was helpful for the interpreters to be able to see and hear me so they could communicate with the student. And I think it's, I just want to pick up on that thing around, it's something that you can learn and we can always do better. And, you know, sometimes we'll make mistakes, but the thing is to keep doing this because it is best practice and it's very much part of the open ethos. So, you know, we can't just say that we're open for some parts of our community. The idea is to be as open as we can for everybody when it comes to this work.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to keep in mind when it comes to accessibility in all realms is that you can't be too hard on yourself as well. As long as you're making the effort, you're trying, you're learning, you're taking on board new things, that is the main thing, but there will always be something new to learn. And just particularly with technology changing the way it is these days, there will be new best practices coming in all the time. Just trying to keep up to date with all of these things is extremely important.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matthew. I know Marissa is on the call as part of the meeting, and Marissa was also part of the working group, and it'd be really great to get an idea from you, kind of how you were involved in the first course and what the difference was in the second course, and what the experience was like. Because as we mentioned at the top of the session today, things like this wouldn't happen without the collective effort and the willingness of our community to help build these things and to share our knowledge.
Kia ora koutou. I'm hoping you can hear me okay. Yeah, so I did the course a couple of years ago and really enjoyed it. So I put my hand up when we did the review of OA101 probably about a year or so ago. And I really enjoyed my experience with Janet and the team, revising that content and refining it. You always learn new things, and there's changes in this space all the time. So then when the EOI came out for the OA201, I jumped at the chance, and it's been a great opportunity to work with a number of people across Australasia, and I've learned things myself along the way, which has been great.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for that, Marissa. I do have we had a couple of questions that we were going to ask Lesley and Chris about their involvement in this work, and you know, their willingness to contribute to the project. And we asked about the importance of Indigenous data sovereignty and governance, and why it's an essential knowledge for this sector, and how it relates to research practice. And so Lesley had this to say, that Indigenous data sovereignty asserts that Indigenous peoples have the right to control data about their communities' lands and cultures, and that open research practices often promote data sharing and reuse, which can conflict with Indigenous rights if not handled appropriately. And some of the work that is talked about in the module certainly speaks to that. Here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, there are Indigenous-led repositories, data repositories being set up by iwi and communities. And so that's just one of the ways that you can address this kind of work. I think, Janet, did you have your hand up?
I did for a second, but just to let you know that Kristie is able to contribute and she's on the call. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Fantastic. Well, I might throw over to you, Kristie, about your involvement in the working group. Nice to see you.
Yes, lovely to see you again, Kim. And apologies to everyone. I'm actually called in through my phone. I've had a lot of technical issues today, but that's okay here now. So after completing the OA101 course in 2022, I took the opportunity to join the OA101 Revision Working Group, and that was in August 2023. So our focus was on identifying and providing suggestions for improvement in the course. Shortly after, I became a tutor for the September iteration, where I supported participants by responding to discussion points, answering questions, and assisting with troubleshooting. This initial involvement with OA101 led to my participation in the OA201 Working Group, where we started from August 2024, and we had 6 other colleagues from across Australia and New Zealand universities, such as Marissa, who spoke earlier, as well as Janet. So we began by meeting fortnightly to develop themes and resources for each module. And feedback from the Open Australasia members at the AGM helped us to identify key issues facing open scholarship today. So from this, we refined our focus to 4 core themes to be explored over 4 weeks. Bibliodiversity and equity, Indigenous data sovereignty, impact of artificial intelligence, and copyright and rights retention. And to guide our content development, we use Bloom's taxonomy to create clear learning outcomes for each theme. We then sourced relevant resources and brainstormed activities and content to support those outcomes. Each member of the working group took responsibility for one theme, allowing us to dive deeper into our areas of interest. My focus was on the impact of artificial intelligence in the open scholarship landscape. This aligned really closely with my role at UniSC in coordinating our library's AI community of practice. So it actually all came together very well. And collaborating with Janet and the rest of the OA201 Working Group has been incredibly rewarding. It's really deepened my understanding of open scholarship and strengthened UniSC's connections within the open access community. So I'm really grateful to Janet and Open Australasia for making this collaborative and enriching experience possible. Thank you.
Oh, that's so lovely, Kristie. I mean, I think that's the thing about community is that it's all those extra things that you get from being part of the community and connecting over work that you feel passionate about.
Absolutely.
So that was very lovely. Yeah, thank you. I'm just going to read a statement that Chris Cormack, who was one of the members of the Indigenous expertise group, who worked with Janet on the project about Indigenous data sovereignty, and both Lesley Acres and actually the whole advisory group that worked with us are all experts in the field, but I just wanted to mihi particularly to Chris because I've known him for a very long time, who is one of Aotearoa's experts in Indigenous sovereignty. So Chris says, Indigenous data sovereignty fundamentally reshapes open research by recognising that data about Indigenous people isn't just information to be shared freely, it is whakapapa. So it's genealogy, it's part of who we are, it is actually our family, and it's cultural protocols, and it's also collectively owned by our peoples. And when researchers understand this, they don't treat Indigenous knowledge as a resource to extract, and instead build genuine partnerships where communities, maintain control over their data while still enabling research that benefits everybody. It's about moving from research on to research with Indigenous communities, ensuring that open science doesn't become another form of colonialisation dressed up as good intentions. So I think, stay tuned for that module. It's going to be a really useful one for our members and our sectors. I don't really need to say much more about this space. I'll leave it with what Lesley and Chris have shared today. So we've got a little bit of time for questions. So you can ask questions of Kristie or Dimity or Matthew or Marissa, who are here with us today, or indeed Janet, if you've got any questions. So I'm just going to open the floor. Just take yourself off mute and ask the question, or if you're shy, shouldn't be shy, you can just type the question in the chat. I see any hands up, any questions? Oh, Francie.
Hi, yes, Kim, thank you. Beautiful introduction and, telling us all about the program. I just wanted to check, I didn't do 101, I didn't do OA 101. Does it mean I can somehow pace through that while I'm doing 201, or what is the rules about that?
Janet has a big smile on her face. She has the answer for you.
That. No, I was thinking you're going to do 2 at once. That would be impressive. There was a question in the chat, actually, it was a direct message to me along the same lines about what we're now going to do with OA 101. And we haven't discussed this as an exec, but I'm pretty sure I can speak for us when I say we're not going to retire that course. I think there's still a need for it. And in fact, I have had quite a lot of requests in the coming up to 201 for people asking for access so they can kind of go through the content again and just brush up a little bit. So I suspect we will continue to offer it as a self-paced. Whether we'll just keep it open, I'm not sure. We'd have to discuss that. Hey, Kim. But it'll definitely be there as a resource. And if anyone wants to go through it right now prior to taking 201, just email me or the contact at OA Australasia, and then we can give you access, because the course is currently open at the moment.
And certainly, Francie, if you work in the scholarly comms space, you'll know a lot of the content anyway. And I'd encourage you to sign up for 201, and you can always, you can decide then if it's not quite at the level you were expecting, or so we can work with you around that.
As someone who knows Francie, I think you can jump into 201. I think you'll be quite
there you go. Ginny.
Well, congratulations first off to Janet and the team on this. It's really exciting to see this coming through. I miss this community. I feel like, but it's great to see all the work that's going on. So I do have one question, which kind of also relates to 101, which is, when you were developing the new course, which obviously I haven't seen, do you think is there an area where you'd say what's in 201 actually conflicts with what's in 101? Are there areas where the kind of the exec committee and the group perhaps has changed its thinking about an idea?
Should I answer that, Kim?
Yes, Janet. Yes.
I don't think so at all, because we've taken things that we maybe just mentioned in OA 101 or didn't talk about at all, and done a deep exploration of them. So there's nothing that conflicts. And in fact, if anything, it sort of would build on. So for example, I know in OA 101, we talked a little bit about what is Indigenous knowledge, and we talked a little bit about care principles, whereas now those mentions have become like a much fuller explanation. So yeah, I think they're very complementary. I can't think of anything anything where we've changed position.
I think, one of the great things about OAA as an organisation is the values and principles at the heart of the work, at the heart of the birth of the organisation, and the need for this regional advocacy and work together. Those have fundamentally stayed the same. That commitment to equity and bibliodiversity and openness and respect for everybody who works in this space. Those are fundamental principles that are articulated globally in the movement, and they've stayed the same for us. I think as an organisation, though, our priorities have shifted. The conversation has moved away from what we badged as open access, although those in the community, those who work in scholarly communications and in research, have always thought of it as a much broader term. But now that people kind of understand more about that concept of open access, it's paved the way for richer, deeper conversations about, what true transformation of the publishing environments might look like, what hasn't worked in the past in terms of, some of the things we've been doing in the open access space, the need for regional platforms to share our publications in this area, and the commitment to really growing our capacity across the ANZ and the Pacific. So I think for us as an organisation, the work that we're doing and the priorities has shifted, but fundamentally the principles at the heart of what we have done as an organisation have stayed the same, and also who we work with has changed as well. There's sort of some very interesting conversations going on, for example, about, what the next version of ERA will look like, how impact is going to be measured in Australia and New Zealand. And those are conversations that OAA can very much be a part of, and also this community. So yeah, it's a great question. We want to keep evolving. We want to listen to our membership. We want to, work with continue to work with the global community. It's really important, and probably more so now in this environment than it's ever been before, with what is going on globally. So any other questions? Well, what I might do is just again encourage you to sign up and do the first module. Again, thank everybody for their commitment, for being part of this community. It's really exciting to be releasing these modules over the next few months. And indeed, if you have any questions, any suggestions, any feedback, to share them with the executive and Janet. As you know, and Matthew and others will attest to, when you're building courses, it's very much an iterative process, and we this is the foundation, and we will build and improve very much based on what the community wants. So we're looking forward to getting our first cohort through and getting your feedback, and it's a very exciting time. So thank you very much for coming and spending an hour with us. I really appreciate it, and just wish you all the best for the rest of the day. And yeah, sign up, tell your friends, share it around.